welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm your host, Ian Carlos Crawford, and joining me today is Dumpster Raccoon, writer Scooby, and my podcast husband.
Oh, hello, it's Anthony Oliveira, and today we are joined by comedian, writer, actor, great friend, fun company,
Tiff Stevenson,
as well as writer, producer, podcaster, and master of some,
LaToya Ferguson. Hey, everyone.
And we're here to talk about, I love this episode. Do we all love this episode? It's him.
I wrote in my notes, this episode, which I do greatly enjoy, it's like an early season Buffy episode on crystal meth.
That is a really accurate description. I gotta say, Anthony, I was surprised you liked this episode.
Why? Tell me why. I'm fascinated.
It's like, it is very silly, and it doesn't, even when it's like, oh, Buffy does have the rocket launcher and she's going to murder the principal, it like never takes itself. It's just like, yeah, that's played for jokes, and it is a joke. I don't know, and I would think you would not like how absurdly silly it is.
He's saying you don't like humor, Anthony.
Yeah. I think LaToya's diagnosis is exactly right. Like, I like that it is a burlesque of like every Buffy plot. Like, this show that, I mean, kind of in a lot of ways invented sort of this pop culture moment where we were all about like obsessive love, like very much like the Twilight moment, and just cranks it all the way up and turns it into this like campy, goofy, and I think quite shrewd, like spoof of that, like parody of that, and like how destructive that kind of love actually is. I thought it was great. I think it's a great little episode. It's also like the last fun episode of season 7. LaToya was just off mic. We were just talking about storyteller. That's really it, right? Like, those are the last two.
Yeah, and it's another thing about how early season it feels is just that to the point that they're at the Bronze and the Breeders are playing in 2002. That's how like early Buffy it seems. Which, by the way, I kind of forgot the Breeders were playing in this episode, and I was like psyched when they showed up.
Yeah, it doesn't speak well of like their career that they're at the Bronze, but you know.
Apparently, the Deal sisters are big Buffy fans, and that's how that happened.
Exactly.
Wait, really?
So you play the Bronze twice, once on the way up and once on the way down. Michelle Branch.
Before we get completely into the episode, Tiff, do you want to give us your Buffy origin?
Oh, my Buffy origin, yes. Well, I actually can't even remember exactly the first episode I saw, because I saw it when it first came out in the UK, which would be on Channel 4, and I watched it with my mum, and it was definitely season 1, probably around the time, maybe around I think I watched it from the first episode. Okay. But I think I remember specifically then sitting down to watch it with my mum because she fancied Angel, or in her words, he's a bit of a salt. And so I would have been, probably would have been coming up on 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm that's funny. I mean, I've told this story a million times, but I started watching because my mom watched it as well. Like, she got me into it, and it's funny, like, thinking of like our moms watching the show.
Yeah, of course they are, because also as well, I think at that time, I mean, this what I always sort of come back to, the Sex and the City conversation and stuff like that, just how much TV it felt like, although, obviously it being on the WB in America or whatever, American stuff always felt very aspirational in the UK anyway. And we didn't have the same high school experiences as you. So there was that bit of kind of like glamour to watch, something like this at home. But I guess there just wasn't that much stuff for women. So like my mum was kind of watching it from the point of view of like, oh, this has like stuff that I might be interested in. And obviously the themes are universal and huge in Buffy, as they always were, but there wasn't a huge amount of and I think sort of Dawson's Creek and Buffy sort of hit about the same time. And although the characters they were sort of playing were younger than me, because like I say, I think I was 20 when it came out. It was like 97, wasn't it? So yeah. So but yeah. The people playing them were the same age as me, and sometimes older. But there was, it was my mum sort of loved it for the bit of the glamour, and it's you have to understand our soaps in the UK are not the same as your soaps. Even our soaps are like grainy, depressing. Everyone's trying to kill someone over turkey at Christmas.
Right.
Everyone, like, but we don't even have glamorous people doing it. It's just miserable people smoking cigarettes and it constantly raining. So Buffy, even with all this dark stuff in it, is a breath of fresh air.
That's fair. But so the episode opens on, Anthony and I, we talked about this in the previous episode for Selfless. They needed to have that blip of like Buffy going into the basement and she's like, you have a soul, you gotta get out of this basement. She's like very tough on him. And Anthony, I don't know if because I thought about our conversation from Selfless, how like Buffy is poised as the villain in that episode. And I like that it's almost like we go right back to like, no, Buffy's like, she's even less harsh with Spike here in this opening than she was in the previous episode, right?
Yeah. I mean, part of that I think is just like tonally, like this episode has a very different, it's almost in a different genre than
Right.
Selfless. Like it really is. And I think one of the cool things, my favorite thing about this episode is seeing which of the actors get it and which ones don't, like which ones understand that this is a broad, like, I mean, we're talking about this in the middle of like WandaVision being on TV, and it's like, it's kind of playing at that level. And Sarah Michelle Gellar does understand that level. Like she's done the Daphne Scooby-Doo thing. And
Sarah's amazing in this episode, by the way, I have to just say.
Who is? Sorry?
Sarah's amazing in this episode.
Oh, yeah. Like, she's great. I mean, obviously, Emma Caulfield is great. Again,
Yeah.
WandaVision. Like, and you can see, like, the beginnings of, oh my God, I'm blanking on her name, Willow.
Alison Hannigan.
Yeah, like, How I Met Your Mother is kind of here, right? Like, my only real critique of this episode is we don't get enough of that back-end zaniness throughout. Like, I would have loved to have that earlier, but yeah, I mean, you can't have Buffy open as being the steel general that she's going to be for the rest of season 7, right?
I did want to know what you all thought. So, like, this is the second episode, maybe the only second episode I will ever, 2 of 2 that will ever say this, but Xander's a little bit right in the opening when he's like, why are his problems our problems now? Like him and Dawn are kind of right, but then also Buffy's kind of right where she's like, well, he has helped us and he has a soul now. I go back and forth, but I wanted to know what the group thought. Tiff, what do you think?
Well, see, it's interesting because you ask on this to kind of say, what would you change about the episode? And this is one of those episodes where I don't really think I would change a lot. And I think the scene's relevance there is really important for setting up what the entire episode is about, this obsession and longing and also loss of control and Dawn's feelings of inadequacy, which we'll probably talk about later on as well. But it's like a foreshadowing of a lot of that. But there's definitely a mirror, isn't there, where sort of Xander says basement guy is better than stalking Buffy guy. And they're just openly talking about the sexual assault in the three of them, which is sort of, bearing in mind in the previous episode, I think Buffy and Xander go sort of head to head over whether or not, Buffy's going to kill Anya.
Right. Yeah.
So Xander's obviously still in this place where he's feeling like when it comes to whoever Buffy wants to save, it's a different story to me. And he sort of says as much, I think, in the episode before. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know without knowing the whole season and then, to see it again for the first time, because we obviously know what Spike's redemption arc is here and everything else and how he, becomes the true hero or the selfless, the one who throws himself upon the sword at the end of the series. So I'm sort of with Buffy in terms of, thinking that Spike, she's like, he's a warrior and she's going to need everyone that she needs for what's to come, I think.
That's actually a good point, that it is. And he is like, of the group in a fight, he would be the most helpful. LaToya, what do you think?
So it's been a while since I've like really, really rewatched season 7, and I'm like not in that zone right now either, because I've been rewatching Angel season 3 and like with that some of Buffy season 6. But rewatching this episode, especially early on, like just in the first scene, I was like transported basically to like the television without pity days with like the pre-meme memes, which is Buffy saying every episode, he has a soul now. And I'm just like, well, that's not a great way to start this off. But then like luckily the episode like turned hard left to what the rest of what it was. But it's just, it is interesting because it's not just, Xander being his usual hater self. Although I kind of hated Xander in this episode and all of his jokes. I was like, this is a bad joke. Yeah, I've had some time away from Xander, and I just came back into this episode, usually just being like Xander is Xander, but like by season 7, I'm just like, shut up. Just stop making cracks. After you leave someone at the altar, stop joking ever. So obviously you have him hating on Spike, because it makes sense, but also what Spike did, it was a terrible thing and more people should hate on him. And you know what? Dawn does. And a lot of shows today would not say the word rape. Yeah. And this show does say it. They're making it very clear. He tried to rape her. That's what happened. It wasn't a misunderstanding. As much as sometimes people try to like massage it or like say that's not what was going on. Like the show says it specifically. And it is interesting that, we start this episode with that, considering what the rest of the episode is, which is mostly a farce,
Right.
Yeah. It would be easy to imagine a bad version of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Where like that theme is amped up, like, right? Because it is about like, obsessional love is dangerous, but it never does the math. What was weird watching this again now is like, well, Buffy's relationship to this student is very creepy in this, and she is under a spell. And it's mitigated by all these weird factors, like the actor is literally older than her and everything. Right, yeah. But like, it never is like, see, Buffy is just like Spike. She has been driven mad by love, right? Like it never does that math. Like it takes a deft. I'm so glad it doesn't walk that path at all. It puts Spike in at the beginning, and then he literally almost never speaks again, right? Like he's like just like Xander's henchman for the rest of the episode.
It's the difference between Spike actively doing something and like something being done to Buffy and the rest of them. There is a difference there, and the show is making it clear. Say what you will, but the show, I think, in a lot of ways, even when I have my issues with, Spike driving his motorcycle to Africa to get his soul, as you know, the show is making clear, at least at this point, what he did, why it was wrong, and why they should be upset. And they're even discussing just the fact, like, the rough sex versus the attempted rape, too. Like, that's in this episode, them discussing that. Which, again, I wouldn't see it in a lot of shows today, really.
Yes. I was going to say, and what you said earlier, a lesser show or a show even today might conflate like rough sex with and be like, well, but like they don't do that here. They like make them different things. And you are right. That is like a good point that they do, of like making sure to point out like, yes, they had rough sex, but also what he did had nothing to do with that.
There's a part she consented to and there's a part that she didn't.
Right.
And and also it's great that she sort of has that conversation with Dawn as well. Because I think there's a bit about toxic masculinity and expectations upon men. And, for such a funny episode, it packs a big punch in terms of content and the themes it's trying to take on. And again, we'll get into it later in the episode, but I think there's some really interesting stuff commenting on Spike and Xander later on. Of them, it's I love it for what it's kind of going for. Messy conversations.
And like I feel like, not that I have a sister, but that makes sense that two siblings would have like, they might have the, like you said, the messy conversation. That's like feels true to their siblingness of like, Dawn's. I don't think she's not trying to be like harsh or mean with Buffy, but she's literally like, I don't get it. Like, why are you wanting him here? And I think that makes sense. Like Dawn, we've talked about this before, but they do some really good Dawn character rehabilitation this season. And Dawn in this beginning, before she gets, zapped by the love spell, she's a lot more mature than we had seen before. And she's not attacking Buffy. She's just like, hey, like, I don't understand this. Which I really like. I love Dawn a lot, this version of Dawn. We cut to the football field at Sunnydale High. Dawn kind of keeps having that conversation where Buffy's like, he has a soul. And she says, well, Xander left Anya at the altar when he had a soul.
Yeah.
Got her.
Yeah, she says a soul doesn't make someone a man.
Yeah, like, and I thought I really liked it. I mean, someone needed to say it, right? Like, and it's true. And that's like a weird thing of it's almost like the show talking to itself, right? Because we're told so many times in this show that like the soul is the difference between like demon and man, and but here it's like but Xander still did some shitty things, and that's what Dawn is pointing out. I like that she's the
Yeah.
voice of reason here,
And
especially right
also,
before getting the love spell.
we know that Angel's not a good person and a hero because he has a soul. He made the choice to be a hero eventually, but having a soul didn't do that. It just made him hang out in this like the streets with rats.
Yeah, and it wasn't even his choice to have a soul. He was cursed.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
whereas Spike went on a mission, I suppose, was on his bike, as you say.
Right.
But then he decided to hide in a basement afterwards. So what was the point anyway?
He got too many feelings. Caught the
He
I
feelings.
had
understand.
too many feelings.
As someone who also has a lot of feelings, I understand. So I like that Buffy's immediately like, all right, well, bye, rant girl, and like leaves, and then we get
Well, yeah, she says bye, rant girl, and they're kind of pretending for a second that like this child Dawn doesn't know what she's talking about, even though she's probably like the most rational person here
Yeah.
in this conversation. And also, Buffy, you guys have talked about it before, but Buffy does not dress appropriately for school faculty, and especially not in the scene.
Listen, you prude.
I mean,
Her
she looks
age
hot,
is such
but
a mess. Like it really is baffling how old Buffy is supposed to be here, and it's like the episode really hangs a lantern on it, where she's like, I'm not that much older than you, and it's like actually she's not supposed to be, but she reads as 35, and then she dresses like I don't know.
I like that. She's got that slightly governess look later on, and they're like, I feel like it's a real choice. There's a lot going on here. We have to discover. We have to discuss Anya becoming Shane from the L Word.
Oh my god,
Midway
that's
through.
yes.
That is really accurate.
There's a lot. Like this is a really weird. Like Buffy's got some ugly ass outfits in this as well. She looks a bit Target. Like she looks a bit Sears catalog. In the middle, like there's a bit in the middle where I'm like, is that double denim? This is unheard of.
Wow.
I don't know what's going on.
let us not insult Jane the Virgin sponsor Target, okay?
Yes, less Target. I've got some good shit from Target. I would say Sears catalog, maybe. Yeah, might be a more accurate.
Bankrupted
so-
Sears catalog.
So I meant to look this up, and of course fucking forgot. Theme to a Summer Place is what the caption says that song is. I don't know what the hell that means. Do any of you?
It's a song. I can play it on the piano. It's one of the few songs I can actually play.
But I mean,
it's a classic romance movie, right? Like famously, Oz referenced it earlier in a previous episode where he's like, it involves a feather boa and a theme from the Summer Place.
Oh.
So it's
probably
yeah,
something
but it's
we
like
like.
it's one of those pieces of music. It's like that.
It's a 50s saucy kind
Movies
of.
with Sandra D.
I'm
All
looking
right.
at the poster right now. Yeah, it's like it's like two kids at the beach. Like it's a very 1950s-y campy movie. Like that theme is it's like the wedding march from like it's literally it feels to me like they literally were just like, what is the most cheesy romantic theme we can use here, right? And it's like a cute little it announces the tone of the episode right away, right? Like we have one serious conversation where they're like, let us talk about the themes of the episode. Love is irrational, and then it like immediately becomes this farce that Michelle Trachtenberg does a really good job of carrying throughout the episode.
Although I do
She does.
question that Michelle Trachtenberg is supposed to play a nerd of any sort. She has aged out of here side. At least Gossip Girl realized that Michelle Trachtenberg is hot and wrote accordingly. This is offensive. What I was watching, this is a stolen nerd valor, is what is happening in this episode.
It's a bit of gaslighting, isn't it? I suppose.
I'm like, sorry, young Ricky Lindholm, but like, look at Michelle Trachtenberg. Stop this.
Yes.
It does have the
Yes.
seeds of Georgina Sparks' like sociopathy though. Like when she pushes that guy down the stairs, like, oh, that's Georgina Sparks. There she
Exactly.
is. Right.
Hold
And
on,
isn't
Anthony.
Yeah.
Anthony, you watched Gossip Girl?
I love Gossip Girl. It's brilliant.
What?
I mean, I'm sure it has not aged at a level. I was obsessed with Gossip
not at all.
Girl.
It has not aged well at all.
I was obsessed with Gossip Girl. And like Georgina Sparks is like one of the all-time big bads in television history. Like that episode at the end of season 1 where like they talk about Georgina and then it starts playing that Evacuate Now song. Like Michelle Trachtenberg is one of the great series villains of television, I think. I'm obsessed. That scene where she says, "You can tell Jesus the bitch is back." That's like classic.
Weirdly, I've only seen the last episode of Gossip Girl. That is the only episode I've ever seen.
Ian, what is wrong with you?
My roommate and his now wife were watching it, and I was like, wait, I want to see who Gossip Girl is. And I watched that whole like weird like montage of like all the characters where it even went to Kristen Bell, and then it went like you thought it was going to be her, and then it wasn't her. Yeah, I just wanted to know, and yeah, it wasn't that good of a reveal.
Well, Michelle Trachtenberg plays like a chaos monster in it.
You should at least watch the first season, Ian.
Yeah. The first season is classic, but every season, Michelle Trachtenberg's character reinvents herself. So like suddenly she'll be like a Jesus-obsessed character, and then like,
Avril Lavigne at one point, right. By the looks of
it. I didn't realize she was that much. I thought she was like a side character that popped up.
Oh yeah, she is, like, but she when she comes, she's super, yeah, exactly. She's Glory, basically.
But so okay, and Anthony and I talked about this. I don't love that. I like the idea of Buffy checking in on Anya. I don't love that after the like ending we had from the previous episode where Hoffman is like, I don't need to kill you because I'm going for the hurt. I'm going to kill your best friend and then let you die at the end because I know that's going to happen. That like then he sends a demon to attack her. Like
there's like a bounty on her head. Like I've talked before about how I think the whole Anya becoming a Avenged Demon Again story is so underwritten, and this doesn't help, honestly.
Yeah. Because like it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, Tiff, sorry.
Well, yeah, no. So there was the end of the episode before. Like Anya walks off, like you can't help me to Xander. Like it's all about don't try and help me, and it's about her wrestling with the weight of what she's done, and then like, and obviously she's going through changes because her hair and her clothes are, they're very Anya-like, I suppose. Yeah. But the fact that they seem to just be straight back in it. With hardly any gap doesn't feel, that would be the one thing I would think doesn't feel massively realistic, considering how hot it was the episode before, like where it was left,
right?
And her friend was murdered, right. So Hallie was like taken instead of her. So it feels a bit weird that her and Buffy would kind of have this zingy back to being those kind of friends.
Yeah,
especially since it doesn't track because Buffy and Anya never had that like aha moment where they became actual friends, even the way like even Anya and Willow did. Like when she said, "I'm your like I'm checking on my friend." Like I wrote in my notes, "You're not friends," and
right.
You were
like the previous episode proved that.
And even like in the lead up to the wedding, you were just kind of like, "Are you sure you want to marry her?" Like Buffy never even tried to get to know Anya. Like they're not friends. Willow and Anya, if Willow were saying this, yes, they're friends,
Yeah, it might have been a stronger scene if this had been Willow saving her and then been like,
but
maybe
how would Willow have saved her?
Right.
Right.
I mean, it would have been nice kind of if at a story level, if Anya was going to come back in this way, give me an episode with her not on the board. But I want Emma Caulfield in this episode so much that I can't, in good conscience, be like, she shouldn't be in this episode.
Of course.
She is a delight in this episode.
Yeah.
So Anya, I like after she kills the demon, Anya's like, I don't need anyone's help. And then it's like, well, clearly I do, but stop helping. Like Anya is just such a good character. Like I like that she's like lying and then it's like, well, I'm lying, but I still hate you. Like very good. But yeah, I actually do think you guys are right. Like it might have been made more sense if it was Willow checking up on her. Cause like I felt like after, we had Triangle, which is a really good episode. Anthony and I both love that episode, but Triangle while it does a funny Anya Willow episode, it doesn't quite heal their relationship. They still kind of don't like each other. But then I think same time, same place, the like third episode of this season does a really good job of healing their relationship because Willow needs her help, and like and Anya's like, all right, I'll help, and Anya helps her, and I feel like that's almost like the healing moment with them where it's like, okay, they are friends. You know, Willow's not making jokes or anything in the previous episode when they're talking about killing Anya. She won't even go with Buffy. I like their relationship. But so then we cut back to Sunnydale. Well, Buffy like talks about like how she wants to make sure her friends are all good, and I like that Anya's like, she says that Willow's no good at strategizing unless she's evil, and Dawn, she's not really good for anything.
And I cut to Dawn with all episode.
Yes.
And then we immediately get this cut to Dawn in high school. She sees RJ talking to his like cheerleader and football friends. I don't know if any of you have watched Westworld, but the
Yes.
head girl that's
She's
like the
in it.
cheerleader. Yeah, she's in Westworld. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, is she good in it?
Yes.
In Westworld.
Yes,
Yes, in Westworld.
She's
Okay,
had
'cause
more
I was
acting
like-
experience since this episode of Buffy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better. She's better than the shin kick that she gives
Right,
Buffy
okay.
in the alleyway. Yes.
What the shit is the best part?
She's one of the few villains on the TV show that beats Buffy in a fight. Like that
Undefeated.
she's one for one. Yeah.
But the only reason I knew that is because when I was watching Westworld, I was like, she looked so familiar. And I did like one of those like IMDb deep dives. And I was like, oh, it's from that episode of Buffy. And she's like, no, I'm not good in this, but she is good in Westworld. She really is.
Well, and Ricky Lindholm, then you don't really see her much again, do you, after that kind of scene? She's on crutches.
Wait, so who's Ricky Lindholm?
She's the one
She's
on the
the one with the
crutches.
plaque.
She's the injured cheerleader.
But I mean, is that actor famous?
Yes.
She's in Garfunkel and Oates and Another Period. She's comic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
her.
I
Yeah.
love that.
She doesn't get much to
Famous
do in
in
this one.
Jesus.
To the point where I kind of thought the leg injury was going to come back, like the other
Yeah.
cheerleader had broken her leg, and it never did. I feel like there's
Yeah.
a draft of the script that was a little longer that maybe explained that, but
Yeah, because even in this rewatch, I was like, oh, right, the other cheerleader hurt her leg. And then it was like, oh, no, she just has a crutch. There's
Right.
no like explanation.
Yeah,
and I guess
I-
it's worth like this is maybe a good moment to be like, season 7 is so much about back to the beginning, and this is absolutely thinking hard about the witch, which is like literally the second
Mhm.
episode of Buffy. Like
Yes.
again, like the cheerleaders hurting each other. And,
Tryouts.
like, yeah, exactly. And obviously it literally references that by having Dawn dig out the cheerleading outfit in the attic and stuff with a very expensive music drop, right? Like the Shins are in this episode.
Coldplay in
Coldplay.
this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Oh yeah.
Breeders play
and-
LeBron.
Also,
Yeah,
Ian,
like,
I found the archives for like the original shooting script for like all the Buffy and Angel episodes, which like have a lot of usually like
Oh, shit.
deleted scenes or lines. I should send them your way, Ian, because there might be like a deleted
Yeah,
line or
yeah,
something
please do.
about that, like the injury.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to point out the guy who plays RJ, who is very clearly, I didn't realize he was even older than Sarah Michelle Gellar, but I was like, this man is clearly at least Sarah Michelle Gellar's age. And then I Googled just to make sure, because I didn't want to feel like a creep for thinking he was attractive.
He's
His
so
name.
hot.
Are you going to talk about his name and how ridiculous
Oh my
it
The
is?
God,
whitest
his
name in the
name.
world.
They should have kept his name as Thad Luckenbill, which is the most perfect lunkhead name I've ever heard in my
I mean,
life.
his full name is Thaddeus Rowe Luckenbill. I mean,
Wow.
what
Holy hell.
a name.
So I knew who he was because he was in an episode of Nip Tuck
Yes.
where he plays. Okay, good. LaToya. I was like, ooh, I hope LaToya's seen the show because I knew
Yes,
you
I
would know
found
more
it- I know this
specifics.
episode very well.
Is his character closeted, or is he a gay guy that Julian McMahon like helps out, or is
He's
it a
like-
closeted guy that?
He's gay, and I believe he's like Richard Chamberlain's like young gay boyfriend. And Julian McMahon's like, "Hey, come on, you're like, are you even actually gay, or is it just because this guy's rich, basically?" And he's trying to be
Okay,
like,
okay.
"You don't need to be around this dude," but then that like Bill like tries to fuck Julian McMahon, and it's a great episode.
I
And
like
Julian
that Dawn has a type. like, and it's not Buffy's type. Like, she has a very preppy, like, season 6, she
Yeah.
also was dating, like, the football jock. Like, Buffy likes bad boys. Dawn likes the preps, the, like, mean jocks.
At least this one is hotter than the last one in all the way. I just got to say it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just learned today because I was like looking like what's Thad Luckenbill been up to, because I knew he went back to soap operas, but he's also like a legit producer now. He was executive producer on La La Land. He was a producer on
Whoa.
Sicario. Like he's a real producer now.
I should probably hold back on slating his name quite so.
I mean, it's a great name. It's a great white person name.
Oh, it's insane. I've never heard. It also sounds so American to me. I'm like, what even is that? Thad is so close to Chad, but it fancies itself more.
Right.
It
Yeah.
almost sounds like it would be an American name in like a parody, like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the villain of like a John Hughes movie. It's like,
Right? I am so surprised. It surprises me to this day that he like never entered into the WB stable of boys. I'm guessing they thought
Yeah.
Chad Michael Murray like filled the role he would like have basically.
Yeah.
to the
But,
point where I couldn't remember if this was Chad Michael Murray when I was thinking about this episode. Yeah.
Chad Michael Murray just popped up in Riverdale, didn't he, recently?
Oh yes,
So that was
as the sexy cult leader.
yeah. Yeah.
We love the sexy cult leader. But so, okay, so I think Michelle Trachtenberg is doing, I mean, you're right, LaToya, like, give me a break. She wouldn't be that character, but her acting is really good with the, like, awkwardness of, like, oh, the cool, like, jocks are kind of, like, RJ is kind of, like, humoring her, but the rest of them are just like, who is this nerdo? I don't want to talk to her.
This gave me such visceral flashbacks. Like,
Right? Yes.
The
this
cringe
episode is
was
very,
real.
yeah, it's very, I mean, Drew has a very specific sensibility. Like,
Yeah.
it felt very gay to me. Like, even the description of his eyelashes felt very gay to me. But, like, I had this exact scene in high school many times. So,
Oh, Anthony, that's really sad. I feel sorry for you.
well, this specific, I went to an all-boys Catholic school, so you can
Oh,
imagine
no.
how many football conversations I had to bluff my way through, and this vibe was real. Yeah.
Aw. But
I said it
Did
was like
you-
me whenever I feel like I enter like a hot person's mentions on Twitter. I'm like, oh, ha ha ha. That's like me trying to like talk
Oh,
to
no.
them. And
what do we think? Do we think it's a missed opportunity that like RJ wasn't like legit interested in her because like she reminded him of his old nerd life? Because I feel like that there's a version of the script which could be where he like actually liked Dawn because she was nerdy, in air quotes.
It has a bit of that like Owen thing from, again, season 1, Never Kill a Boy on the First Date, right? Like, Owen was also this incredibly hot dude who like loved Emily Dickinson, and it's like, okay, sure. I kind of like that he is a complete non-entity in some
Yeah.
ways. Like, he literally, there is nothing here at all as a person, which I kind of like. As
He
a
gave
beat.
into the toxic masculinity after he got cool, basically, instead of just keeping his loves.
Yeah, he has no. I also similarly like that he has nothing to do with this spell. Like, it's not Xander in season 3 where there is like a deeply troubling, like, you put a spell on people. Like, he literally has no idea, right? Like, I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
Yeah,
as
he doesn't know, does he? Because he puts on the jacket and he seems surprised when
Right.
Buffy changes her attitude. But he
And there's
leans
people
into
who go
it
through
real
life
quick.
like that. Yeah, exactly.
well, I feel like, Xander later on does say like, oh, it must be the jacket. I feel like the cutesy must be the jacket is kind of probably what RJ is like. The character is thinking like, oh, it's just like, like ladies are attracted to me in this jacket, not knowing like they're literally only attracted to you in that jacket because of the jacket. I mean, granted, also, I mean, again, I go back to like, but he is super hot. Like it, right? Like,
Right, but if he
The next
wasn't,
doesn't
it would
make
just
him
be
hot.
Superstar again,
We need
right?
a
Like,
flashback to like nerd version of him because I need to see if they could even pull it off. A nerd version of Chad Luckenbill.
like she's all that him, where it's just like he's got glasses.
He's got glasses and braces,
Yeah,
right? Is that
exactly.
it?
Yeah, the makeup artists and costumes are like, we can't do anything with this. We can't like nerdify him. It's impossible.
Can't be done.
You put glasses on him and he looks hotter somehow.
Yeah.
The core is overloading. It can't be done.
He's got paint on his overalls, and it's hot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do really like that scene. I think it is like well done, and I think you're right, Anthony. It's like also makes sense that like a queer person would write that scene, like because it does have those like feelings of inadequacy and invisibility and all that like fun trauma stuff from childhood.
I mean, I'm
Back in
sure
there.
straight people can relate to it too, but this specific, like, trying to inure yourself through sports felt very visceral to me.
But describing to a player of the sport what his sport is and the position specifically that he plays in is just so perfect. It's like the worst thing. Like the quarterback is the most important member of the team. Like it's insane and it's so cringy. It's perfect because the amount of you're like there's like she's desperately grasping around, isn't she, for some kind of like, and to go in that way, I think that's perfectly pitched.
Yeah. She again, Michelle Trachtenberg really gets this. I do think she doesn't get as much fun things to do this episode as everyone else, which I think is a shame. Like when we get to the ending, it's like, oh, okay, well, this isn't funny. But
this episode suggests to me that Dawn needs an actual guidance counselor who's not Halfrek or her sister.
Right.
A licensed therapist is what she needs, because the fact that when they all went to wacky zany things and she went to violence and then suicide, something is not right with her, to quote the Cold War kids.
And she gets instead the worst possible option in the season, which is Xander. Like, that's not who I want telling you about what life is about. That's for sure.
But it is a foreshadowing, isn't it? I do think that is for like coming up to when she finds out she's not a Slayer, you know, when they're kind of towards the end of the season, of that kind of Dawn feeling like that she doesn't have a lot to offer in terms of, you know, what can she do? She has that kind of journey again.
Her whole like season is about sort of answering that thing Anya said, right? Where it's like, Dawn's not good for anything. And it's like, ooh, how true is this? Is sort of, and it's also the fan response, right? Like coming out of season 6, that was the vibe, right? Like, no one wanted her on this show anymore. And a lot of season 7 is thinking about that, right? Like Lessons, the opener is so much about, let us show you how she actually has an interesting interior life and also thinks the shoplifting is kind of weird. Like, I like that a lot.
Yeah. And like, so Dawn goes home. She's like freaking out. She's looking through the boxes. She finds her cheerleading outfit. We get the cheerleading moment, which very much does feel like a nod to the witch. Like it's like that scene in The Witch, right? But except for our main character is the one that's messing up. And I can appreciate that because Dawn is a little what's the word I'm looking for? Like she's not like lanky, but she's got a lot of arms. Yeah, like long arms and long legs. And I kind of like
hilarious because she's literally the most elegant.
Like she has a supermodel body, is what you're saying.
Remember her dancing in the musical episode? Like she's literally the most graceful human, and she somehow pulls off this like deer on ice thing.
Although I guess in the musical, that's magic. That's making everyone be able to dance. So
right, exactly. It's like
doesn't mean she can dance.
You do have those growth spurts, though. I suppose I sort of get called the clumsy dinosaur. I just, you know, for my height, but also when in my teen years, I had a big growth spurt. I think where I was taller than most people, and you're just awareness of your limbs and sort of where you are. So I feel like that kind of reminded me of that a bit, how that can happen in your teenage years.
I've never really thought about Dawn as like, what's that? Well, I don't know if it's awful. I never watched it, but it's like the show where it's like, ooh, she's tall. Like it's Dawn is kind of a tall girl, right? Like she suddenly got tall, and it actually affects the way we read her as a character. Like she is actually younger than she seems. She is less comfortable with herself than she seems. It would be easier to understand Dawn if she was still as short as she was in season 5, and instead she's not that.
Yeah. Well, and I do think there's a point to be made that like the only interactions we see her regularly have are with the Scoobies, who are the adults, right? We don't often see her having successful interactions with other kids her age. And I mean, not that any of these interactions in this episode are successful either, but like her first encounter with RJ, she's less like in the magic spell. I mean, it's there, but it's not like as intense. And that feels more like that's Dawn coming through, not just the magic spell, the like awkwardness of that scene.
I think it does a good, in general, like the mystery of this episode is well constructed, right? Like it's like, oh, something's wrong here when she pushes him down the stairs. And then the first time I didn't guess it was the jacket, right? Like it does a good job of that. Just like as a fun running bit in the episode.
They should have kept Amber Tamblyn around to like tell Dawn, no, you're crazy, Dawn. Don't do this. But also, like, do you ever think like Joss Whedon's like, I should have like booked her for recurring when I had the chance? Because like 2003 is when Joan of Arcadia started. So
yeah,
it's just so weird that you just said that because her name just popped into my head. So simpatico, because I was like, I'm trying to think of Dawn's other friends because
she had
you're
Carlos.
like,
In beginning of season 7, she also had like Carlos and Kit. Was that their names? Yeah. Like she has these like never recurring friends that maybe would have made this episode land a bit more.
Yeah. I mean, so the only time Kit is mentioned literally in passing in conversations with dead people, that's who she's on the phone with.
Right.
And I think it would have done her character a service to have her, even if it's like we only see them in little bit parts, just like having her have friends. Because it feels kind of like she has no friends, and like you said, LaToya, she would be kind of popular in school. Like she's well dressed. She's, I don't know, right.
Yes,
it would have been really fun if Amber Tamblyn had been one of the potential Slayers.
Like, that would have been pretty dope. I think I would like gravitate to any potential Slayer if that were the case.
So we get Dawn crying in the house. She's in the bathroom. She's cut up Buffy's cheerleader outfit. And I gotta say, I feel like I was thinking about this scene a lot in the way we've talked about Dawn on the podcast, because even in this scene, I feel like they made it a point to not have Dawn like yell. She's kind of like a low, upset, grumbly, like even when she's in her room and she's like freaking out, she's still like, just go. There's no get out scene. And I feel like that had to have been on purpose. So they were like, oh, everyone hates her because of those screaming fits. Let's make sure in this fit she's not screaming. She's just more reserved.
She gets her crying quota in. The others get to do fun stuff, and Dawn does a fair amount of crying, I think, in this issue. And again, Xander is again commenting on other people's like love obsessions, because he says, remember at the beginning of the episode, he's like, basement guy's better than, obsessive Buffy guy. And here he says, remember when she had a crush on me? I prefer the cuter me crush.
Which like doesn't land well considering in the comics they do date. But
also the creepiest scene in this episode, which is Xander saying the words "daddy like," which
we have
to talk about this right now because it's so creepy, because he's a high school boy, so whoever he's dancing with is most likely a high school girl, and yet Xander decided to be creepy even not knowing it's Dawn. Like it's creepy.
Well, Xander and Willow, they both like perfect.
Do they think he's dancing with a grown woman? Like, what is wrong with them?
And then Buffy's like immediate response is to insult.
So before we get there, so Dawn grumbles.
Sorry, I have to go
Dawn is
refill my water real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. Dawn is actually like pretty harsh to Buffy. Like I almost was like, oh, way harsh, Dawn, when she's like, you don't even know what real love is, dysfunction queen. Like she's like,
yeah.
I feel like that's like that like John Mulaney bit when he's like, oh, teenagers know right where to get you. They'll like right where your self-conscious is where they'll get you. And that's like, oh, way harsh.
That's the thing I'm sensitive about.
Yeah. But so then we cut back to school, and Dawn overhears RJ and his friends talking about how the other guy got the quarterback position. She follows the quarterback to the stairwell, and he says like something like, oh, that's just how it works, which like is just how it works, and they're still friends. But then she like pulls some Fatal Attraction shit and just pushes him down which I gotta say, Michelle Trachtenberg does a good, like, it's like the moment of surprise, like, oh, I did that. and then the like, yeah, I did that. Like that's like what her.
Can I just say, as Fatal Attraction has been referenced, I think if you watch that movie now with fresh eyes, your sympathies are with Alex. I think the sympathies are with Glenn Close's character. When you sort of watch it back, you're like, oh no, Michael Douglas is the asshole.
Yeah,
He's a
absolutely.
scumbag.
Yeah.
Michael Douglas in like most things. What did the other one that I watched with him and Sharon Stone? What's the one with him and Sharon Stone? Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone.
Oh,
Damn it.
Basic Instinct.
Right.
There's also Disclosure with him and Demi Moore.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The Basic Instinct is him in a V-neck sweater with nothing underneath and penny loafers, and Catherine Tremell still fucks him anyway. Like there's so much wrong with this kind of journey of like Michael Douglas being like the hot, like so unbelievably hot that people just do mad shit. Anyway, I digress.
I mean, Catherine Zeta-Jones married him, so it worked in real life too.
Yeah, he also has a magic jacket that like.
Yeah, maybe it's the sweater from the nightclub.
Yeah,
The lemon sweater. Let her off. But yeah, I think then that's all of a sudden where we because up until that point we don't realize it's a spell, do we?
Right.
We just think it's Dawn being like having a crush on this guy, and we don't really realize that something's up until she shoves the guy down the stairs.
Yeah, that's kind of like the like indication, like, oh, this is like definitely not just a regular teenage crush.
Yeah.
We get the meeting with the principal. I kind of like the principal. I like that we don't really address the fact that she did push someone down the steps, and like the principal's just like, oh yeah, that kid lies all the time.
White privilege at work, people.
I watched this on Amazon, even though I have the DVDs because I'm that lazy. I couldn't cross the room to get the DVDs, but it's the stretched widescreen, so it has things on the side you're not supposed to see. And this scene has when Dawn storms out, she clearly leaves her purse behind, which I found very funny. Like Buffy would have to fetch it for her after her storm out, which I found.
Because then she's holding it in the next scene. Yeah. It's funny that you notice that, Emily, because I watched it on Hulu, and Hulu has the same thing where it's like a little bit stretched, and you like very obviously notice like, oh, but her bag's right there on the chair.
Yeah,
I watched my DVDs because I'm a purist, and I'm ashamed of both of you. Actually,
good for you.
You should be.
Honestly, the weirdest thing about it is not that it like you're like, oh, there's the camera crew. The weirdest thing about it is how empty like the school feels all the time because like, there's no one in the background of anything. It's
Ghost
very
town.
strange. Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot, right? There's a lot of empty space in that school when you see it that way, like a lot.
Is it not still down on students since what happened in end of season 3?
Like the whole, like, well, I mean, everyone there, yeah, those people were graduating anyway, right? Like,
okay.
You just see like 23-year-olds also attending because they're like, well, we were a sophomore when it exploded, but like now it's not, so I guess it's gonna go.
Yeah.
So RJ immediately, like, she leaves. RJ immediately like is like, oh, you face the principal, you're cool. But like, is it supposed to be that he kind of knows she did push him down the steps, or is he legit just like, oh, that's cool, you face the principal because I hate him? What do we think?
I actually don't know. I feel like he's pretty oblivious, actually, so I don't think he knows. But because he says that like principal Wood like calls him into his office all the time, so he probably does think it's cool that she was able to face the principal. Which again, she got away with pushing a kid down the stairs with no investigation, really. White privilege.
So we cut to the bronze. The breeders are playing. We already talked about that. Xander, Buffy, and Willow.
And then Buffy says, what's that shirt made of? Paint. So like Buffy's response is, and also that's a peak early aughts outfit. It's just so like, it looks like a giant moth has taken bites out of that top.
It's like something Buffy would wear to work, actually. So
yeah, it's kind of cute. Like I like it with the jacket, especially like later.
Yes, I think with the jacket.
What jacket is she wearing? Is it the red leather jacket she's got? It's not the red leather, the red suede jacket.
I think it's just a denim jacket that she puts on.
Right.
Yeah.
I like the necklace. And also, Dawn knows what all of us knew as teenagers. In order to look much older than you are, all you have to do is wear hoop earrings and like
Yeah.
Get some volume in your hair. Get volume in your hair, you wear hoop earrings, you automatically look like older.
It's back to what we were saying about Buffy looking older. Like as soon as those season 5 hoops and like gorgeous hair, like, but it's like that's so much work. You kind of already have to have a master's degree before your hair looks like that. It takes work.
As we all know, Sarah Michelle Gellar has a master's degree in hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I don't have bangs at some of the points in this episode. I'm like, she's got these wispy. Like I'm saying bangs because I would say fringe, but you guys say bangs, right?
Yeah,
it's sort of not happening fringe and then happening, and it's confusing.
There was like a meme when we were kids that you could tell when it was a funny episode of Buffy because she had bangs, and it's kind of true.
Men's is in the middle because of how short those bangs are. But I was just saying, her specific hair in this episode actually also reminds me, like it's like a kind of a remix of her season 1 hair, which goes into what I was saying. This is an early season episode on crystal meth.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. That hair is because that like she would have had that hair, but like it would have looked slightly different. But that's like a hairstyle she would have had in season 1. So they, Xander does his daddy like. Buffy calls her a slutbag hussy. And then they realize they have the reveal that it is Dawn. That I always thought, I put this in my notes, I always thought it was like the funniest that he's like, oh, I didn't. And when Willow was like, right there with you. But now as an adult, I'm like, not great. Like,
yeah, now as an adult, I'm like, this is clearly a teenager, you creeps.
Yes. But see, again, like, then it's like, yeah, I don't know. Because, yeah, she actually is, Michelle Trachtenberg wasn't too far from that age, right? Like, I think the actress wasn't too far from how old she was playing.
I think she is. She's almost the same age as Dawn, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
How old's Dawn in this episode? 15, is she?
Yeah, like 15, 16, I think.
Oh, good Lord. Is she really? Oh, my God. Let's see again.
Let's do some research, you guys.
Tall girls grow up too fast. Michelle Trachtenberg was born in 1985. So 35 so she's only now. And she would have been like 16, 17 when they shot this.
Yeah. She's only 2 years younger than me. Huh.
Also, it's so out of character for Xander's never said anything like that before.
Yeah.
No,
he says stupid shit.
He said creepy things before. Let's not pretend.
But like daddy like that level of like.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst is still to come in this season with Xander being inappropriate. Let's not forget the sex dream he has about the potentials later this season.
Oh yeah!
Oh my God!
Or Rachel
I literally blocked that out. I literally forgot that happened.
LaToya, I knew you were going to say, because the also important fact is that it's Rachel Bilson's only role in the whole season is playing that girl. That
she was so lucky she booked the OC.
So Buffy confronts Dawn. They both kind of are really harsh with each other. Like when Buffy is like, I'm so glad Mom isn't here to see you. And it's like, all right, let's relax. Like she's just showing her midriff, which looks great. Good for you.
And we all know Joyce love to fuck anyway. So like, shut up, Buffy.
Like, yeah, sex on the hood of a police car. Come on, Joyce wasn't a prude.
Joyce was putting it down at the gallery after hours. We all know this.
So then we get the scene that you mentioned, Tiff.
Takes Jordan Peterson style people. Anyway, I always feel like Jordan Peterson looks like someone Joyce would date.
Oh no, that's
no.
We never did see Brian. We never saw that last.
I like to think that Brian is just like Anthony Stewart Head, but like with an American accent. It's like the Ross Rust thing from Friends.
Come to think of it, Jordan Peterson is basically Ted the homicidal robot who's like got the values of the 1950s, right? And like wants you to go mini golfing and clean your room. That's totally...
My favorite bit is when she thought she'd killed Ted and she got really depressed and just wore dungarees.
Oh, yeah.
Like you've never seen Buffy in dungarees.
The dungarees of sadness, as they would call them across the pond.
Right.
I feel like Buffy only wore those when she was sad.
Well, she did. And that's how we knew back in the day, us youths, that's how we knew when someone was sad on television, if they wore overalls.
Well, so Buffy follows her, or Dawn leaves after they have that confrontation. Dawn has a confrontation with Westworld girl, and she immediately calls Dawn a slut. They start wrestling on the ground, and Buffy breaks them up. You know what? I still, I don't know why, but it makes me laugh every time when she fucking kicks Buffy in the shin and runs away. It's so silly. Because also, like, Buffy's a slayer. Like, I don't think like a teen girl kicking her in the shin would really like do much.
It's a quick, sharp pain, you know? Those always hurt.
Yeah,
It's
true.
like stubbing your toe. Like, that's gonna hurt more than like a vampire punching you in the face, you know?
Fair. I don't know if any of you noticed this. I was thinking about this when watching it. I think that's the same jacket she wears at the end of the season when she saves them all from the Uber vamps after the explosion. She's wearing a like brown coat, and it looks just like this one. So I think it might be the same one.
Oh, I didn't clock.
But and I do like Buffy's reaction of, well, at least there's someone else who thinks you shouldn't be dating RJ. Anthony, where the hell are we now? Now we cut to Sunnydale, right?
I think it's the scene where it's the RJ comes out of the principal's office and Buffy becomes attracted to him.
Right.
That's where she's dressed like a governess.
That's with the plaid, plaid skirt. Yeah,
I kind of like this. It's a silky skirt, I think, and oh no, that's a later scene. The plaid skirt.
Yes.
She goes full on schoolgirl for that, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, she has a costume.
Like
yeah,
Catholic
you're right.
schoolgirl.
Yeah. Totally, that's what she's doing. Oh, I can't believe I didn't clock that. Yeah.
But she's got like the Victoriana, there's a look of Buffy. She does like peasant tops and chokers and stuff like that quite well in this season, the season before.
It's 2002, the height of the peasant top.
Yes, I love it. I would wear them all the time if we had the weather, which we don't. But she has that kind of like almost like it's a kind of hint of Victoriana, a kind of like lacy, high-necked kind of top with a thing. And I think she's so funny in this. I think it's so funny when she says, I'm basically, to see what always makes me laugh when Buffy's under the thrall, so to speak, rather than a spell. I just like to use the thrall, but it's so on the nose and forthright, because of course it is, because it's Buffy. So there's no subcontext. It just immediately becomes context, right? So it's like, I'm basically the same age as you, but with sexual experience and stuff. It's pretty much how I love that. I love this sex positive Buffy. Like, just
She gets positive finally when it comes to like statutory, but before that, oh no.
Well, I will say, this pandemic sure is killing me, because I was like, ooh, this is sexy when they both like, she's like, with more sexual experience. It gives like a half smile, and then he smiles and is like, I know what you're talking about. And like nothing happens, but I was like fanning myself watching that scene. So another teacher walks in and she's like, and like kind of like covers up over it and like excuses him. He leaves. I will say, without the jacket, I realized even how much hotter that man is. The way the sleeves gripped his arms, looked great. That was when I was like, let me look up. Am I allowed to like think this? Because in my brain, I was like, he might be 20, even though I know that's okay. But he's the same age as Sarah Michelle, or 2 years older than Sarah Michelle Gellar. So he puts on his jacket, blah, blah, blah. He leaves. Cut to Dawn. Wait, what? Oh, Dawn comes home and she thinks she's caught by Buffy, but Buffy lies to her and is like, well, I talked to RJ. He really likes you, but like back off a little bit.
You're coming on too strong. It's so good. It's just like a perfect gaslight. It's so... But we know he doesn't like to be chased. Yeah, it's so great.
Did she say, I'm the pushy queen of Slut Town, which I think we should all aspire to be.
Yeah, t-shirt material for sure.
One day we all will be the queens of Slut Town.
In the future, everyone will be queen of Slut Town for 15 minutes. I think that was Andy Warhol who said that.
15 minutes of Slut Town.
I believe it was Emily Dickinson, Anthony. So she lies to her. What else happens after that? The next day is immediately. I said the next day Buffy immediately goes for that dick, and good for her. She she's like you said, it is schoolgirl. It's very like Britney Spears. It's got like the short plaid skirt, like a button up top that's like a little bit open. And she's immediately like, "Oh, we got to see RJ in the guidance counselor's office," and she just brings him to a room and is like, "We're gonna do this." Um, I-
But
so-
again, deeply inappropriate, right? Like,
right,
like absolutely. And again, like the vibe is the episode really like tonally controls itself very well. But like, I
Yes.
do like how this is it has a sinister energy too.
Yes, because it feels like one of those like, ooh, she's like kind of, well, not kind of, she is being predatory, and she's like, I'm going to bring this student to a closed room, and we're going to fuck. Like she's just, I have trouble like with that because those actors look like they're the same age, right? Like when they're together, it's like, yes, these look like actors that would be dating in another show because they are clearly
Right. Well, I mean, welcome to the early 2000s.
Yeah,
Right?
yes.
At the same time, he looks like someone who they would cast in a UPN or WB show to be a teenager.
Yeah.
Like he would be on Riverdale as like a freshman. Yeah.
And I mean, this was a plot that shows like Pretty Little Liars played straight, right? Like this was the first season arc of that show. So
that's the entire series arc of that entire show.
Oh,
They end up together.
Good Lord. No, they do. They really?
They do. They get their happy ending. Yeah, don't get me started on Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah,
it's even worse once like when it's because now I have to talk about it. When it starts, you're like, oh, he didn't know she was a student. Like he didn't know how old she was. Fast forward like a few seasons later, it's like, oh, he knew how old she was when he preyed on her because he was like investigating like her and all of her friends. He knew when he's like, let's have a secret relationship.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about this episode, right? Is like before all of that, Buffy is already burlesquing the culture that in many ways it helped create, right? Like with the Buffy and Angel stuff and everything. And like, obviously I already talked about Twilight, but like here it is already being like, okay, here's why all of that is both goofy and obviously deeply dangerous, right? Like, I mean, someone's going to bust out a bazooka in a minute.
Yeah. One Tree Hill had that storyline as well, I think. Didn't Peyton...
No, it was I think season 2 it was Brooke and then the teacher played by Ray Valentine, but like it was like really passe by that point. But then, Pretty Little Liars made it the whole show.
Come to think of it, Dawson's Creek has it too, right? Pacey and the teacher.
That's first season.
Really?
Yeah.
That's how it starts. Pacey is like sleeping with his teacher at the beginning of Dawson's Creek.
Tamara, Miss Jacobs.
Tamara, yes. Oh my God. Oh, the name's so perfect.
I mean, you have a WB historian on the podcast now, so just like keep them coming. I'll tell you all about all of them.
LaToya knows all of them.
This seduction feels peak aughts because it's Coldplay again. I think it's from Russian Blood to the Head, right?
Yes,
Coldplay,
what a great album.
Yeah.
So are they? Is this again like the Breeders on the way down? Is this Coldplay and the Shins on the way up? Is that what's happening?
It's definitely Coldplay on the way up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
and the Shins because it's before Garden State.
Yeah.
Right.
A big feature.
I was about to ask, but wait, did Garden State? Because Garden State kind of like the whole soundtrack is them. So I was kind of thinking like, it had to have come out around the same time? But no, I think you're right. It would have been a few years later that Garden State came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wild.
Also the debut of Dawn's ugly red suede blazer. I really hate her jacket in this. It's really ugly. The shape is wrong. The color is horrible. And that's her jacket she's wearing when she witnesses what's going on.
Right. So Dawn runs out of the school because she does stumble upon the classroom door window to see Buffy and RJ. Xander is just outside and she sees him of the school, which I guess he's working construction on the other half of the school. So sure. Xander once again has to be the voice of reason, which is wild. And he's like, because RJ's like, oh, do you ever knock, bro? And he's like, it's a classroom. Like,
I do like the line, get off the boy, Buffy, we're going home. I think it's funny. Because there is the thing, she could do real damage. That's the other thing, I guess, underpinning while she's got him pinned down. She is the Slayer, and if the Slayer,
Right, she can't have the sex she has with Spike with this teenager. What a sentence.
Oh God, yeah.
I wanted to ask what you all thought. I think LaToya and I have talked about this before. So I once lost Buffy trivia because my team refused to believe me that she did not have sex with RJ and it was like, how many people during the course of the show does Buffy have sex with? And they were like, no, I forget what the official number, I think it's 4 or 3. 4, yes. And they're like, no, it's 5 because she has sex with RJ. And I was like, no, she does not have sex with RJ. There's no way on this show they wouldn't make it a big deal if she had sex with him.
Yeah.
And they're like fully clothed when Xander walks in. She's just like on top of him. Right? What do you guys think?
I don't think they did. She's unbuttoned.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like she like sort of pinned him down, but he's sort of going with it, obviously a bit as well. Right. But she's sort of on top of him and they're like making out, to use your phrase, is what I sort of got. I didn't think there was anything more than that. Maybe more was going to happen, but obviously Xander coming in prevents that happening.
Okay. Because I even looked up on that was one thing that I was like, I want to look to see what other fans think. And on the like Buffy Wikipedia, it says like, it is never stated one way or the other. One assumes she did not. And I was like, okay, that's what I always thought. Because also I think that it's like,
it would deflate the balloon of the episode, right? Like it would be too much. It becomes too much about this plot, which the episode clearly doesn't want us to think about too much.
Especially when the show is like in this episode, like talking about rape, frankly, and then it's like, do you want to bring statutory rape into this? I don't think you do.
Right. Yeah.
We literally saw her flinch when Spike touched her, right? Like it's not, it can't go there here now.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So he's like, come on, get off the boy, as you said. They go home. I really appreciate that immediately. There's no research. They're like, yep, this is a love spell. Yep, this is what's happening. There's no discussion on it. It's just Anya, Willow, and Xander like know what it is and are like, well, we got to figure out how to undo this love spell because that's what this is. And the show does that often when there's like a beat like that, and I appreciate it because at this point, I feel like especially the 3 of them would absolutely recognize a love spell, right? Like it tracks.
Yes.
Yeah, this goes to LaToya's point, right? Like this episode is, I mean, it's definitely Buffy in its Baroque phase, right? Like it's Buffy on drugs now. Like they don't need, the characters themselves know the conventions of the genre at this point. So they can skip all the math parts and immediately be like, it must be that guy who's in this picture. Go to his house. He is wildly miscast, but like he's actually pretty cute, I think. I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe I have a type.
He's properly cast. If you thought he was like slightly cute, that means that like when he had the jacket, he was probably hot. I mean, he's not Bad Luck and Bill hot, but at least this was someone they could ugly up.
He just kind of looks like he's let himself go a bit, as opposed to
right.
Like he's had a bad couple of years or something, and he's Lance. Is it Lance?
Lance, yeah.
But what's great about this is that he slams Xander for being a geek at school, and also he slams Xander knowingly and Spike unknowingly. We never get to see Spike's response because he goes, "I found poetry under the bed," and it was his. And it cuts to Spike, but you sort of don't get to see his reaction, and that obviously being such a huge part of Spike's story. With all the poems that he wrote before, he became a vampire.
I gotta say, I love that the cut we do get to Spike is him just like turning around an angel statue.
Right.
It is weird. Anthony, you mentioned this. It is weird. Spike doesn't really, I don't think he even says a word in this scene.
Yeah, I really like it. I like that he is fully coasting through this episode.
James Marsters was like, I just got to show up and look hot. Great. I could do that.
Also, fun trivia fact: this actor is the voice of Garrus Vicarian from Mass Effect, which, if you've played Mass Effect, is a very important character. And there is a lot of gross art about him online. So he has a very beautiful voice, which I really like here.
All right. Well, so right before they actually get to the dad's house, though, they do a little like talking, and I do feel bad for Dawn, and I mean we're supposed to, right? When she's like, "You're not supposed to do this," and Buffy's like, "'Cause I'm old," and she's like, "No, 'cause like I trusted you," and like runs upstairs. I kind of like that Willow, Xander, and Anya are like, well, they're fighting. Let's go walk away. Like they're not going to try because they know they're not going to win. So they're just like, let's just try to do the spell.
You know who would try? Tara. She would try.
She would. She would have.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, guys. Sorry
You
to
gotta make it
bring up.
depressing, LaToya.
She would try. God, I would actually love to see Amber Benson though, like on the love juju for this episode.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
So we get. I wanted to ask if you all noticed. So Xander like lovingly talks about his love spell. We get the quick flashback.
Oh, fuck that.
When we flash back to him like leaning on his hand, the look on Anya's face, she's like looking at him like she's going to murder him, and I love it.
Yes.
She's
yes.
like shooting daggers at him with her face and her squinted eyes. Before Buffy comes in and is like, "Ooh, let me see if there's pictures of RJ."
I mean, yeah, that's what I was doing because, like, you know, he's supposed to have learned his lesson from that love spell, but he's like, "Oh no, this is great memories of when I like took away everyone's free will."
Right.
And the main person you see in the flashback is Joyce. Like, I feel like, oh, we're all on Joyce after Xander's balls. I feel weird.
It is weird how she keeps coming up in this episode for some reason. Like, we keep having these conversations about Joyce
She
that
may be
I
gone,
don't understand
but not forgotten. And I'm sure it means nothing at all, and they won't address it at all. I'm sure it means nothing.
She would never come back in the next episode. So they, what the hell are we, Anthony? we talked about the dad.
My next note is the amazing line, "AJ is my best friend and dearest darling."
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Right.
Followed by my second favorite line, "Willow, you're a gay woman. I can work around it." Like that's...
I can see his soul. And I do like Willow's response to that. Unless it's in his ass, I don't really know. Like,
and also, no Buffy for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Leave quickly now.
I kind of love that when RJ comes to the door, like Willow and Anya both are like going into panic mode because they know that they'll get affected by it, and they're just like, go away, but then they're immediately affected. And I love the cut to them arguing, which has so many good lines in it. And Anya's like, "I would kill for him," and Willow's like, "You would kill for a chocolate bar." Yeah. I love.
That's great. Yeah, it's a great comedic scene, isn't it? And the objectification, just that moment before of RJ, feels really nice. It's just a nice bit of female gaze.
Yeah.
Just sort of like kind of following him out and the head's tilting to the side. And
I do wish his pants were better. I wish his pants showed off the goods a little better than they do.
I'm glad you said it.
It was 2002. Men did not know how to wear pants yet. Like, it was...
I was like, I have talked about this man being hot enough. I don't need to mention that I wish his pants were tighter.
Well, I mean, again, like, to Tiff's point, it would be better if we were implicated in the gaze a bit more. Like, we're not, like... It would work better for what's happening in this scene.
Ian, you don't need his pants to be tighter because you did see his bare ass in that episode of Nip Tuck, so...
I mean, yes. So in case you all want to see, you can see it in an episode of Nip Tuck.
Definitely show that does not hold up. It didn't hold up at the time, but there you
go. So I will say that the season 7 costume designer who I have do, Matt Van Dyne, who does some of the outros, he does say that sometimes when he watches these episodes to talk about the fashion in them, that he'll be like, "Oh, those pants are so..." Like, he was like, "Oh, Xander's in so many baggy pants."
I think Xander's wearing a check shirt he maybe wore in season 1 in this. I could be wrong. At the beginning of the episode, I was like, that's like a kind of like cheesecloth kind of check thing that I feel like he wore a lot of in season 1.
He wears a lot of them this season. Anthony.
Well, he's dressed as a construction. Like, there's that pan from his shoes earlier in the episode, which is like, whoa, those are the worst shoes I've ever seen. But they're construction shoes, so whatever.
Right, yeah.
Construction shoes?
I don't know.
Well, there was also
trying to mask it up here. Oh my god, flashbacks again.
Of like bowling tops and silky blouse on at one point. I remember there being silky bowling top. He went a bit Chandler for a little while, like. So I feel this is getting back to the good, what we call a standard barbecue boyfriend look.
Barbecue. I love that phrase. I'm using that immediately.
Boyfriend.
Using that immediately, stealing that right away.
And now we're going to have a scene reading with Lani, Diane, Rich reading as Willow, Alex Kack reading as Anya, me, Ian Carlos Crawford reading as Dawn, and Kiersten White reading as Buffy.
But you don't even know him.
Yes, I do. I looked into him and saw his soul.
He was walking away, so unless his soul was in his ass...
AJ is my best friend and my dearest darling.
It's RJ, and what you were picking up on was his deep caring and devotion to me.
What's going on?
Willow thinks she's in love with my boyfriend, RJ.
What? No, you two can't do this.
Willow, you're a gay woman, and he isn't.
This isn't about his physical presence. It's about his heart.
His physical presence has a penis.
I can work around it.
This isn't fair. How can you all be doing this to me?
Okay, wait. Everyone wait. Just calm down, okay? I think I know what this is. Clearly, you've both been affected by the same love spell that got Dawn.
This isn't a spell. He owns my heart.
Dawn, be quiet. We're trying to work this out. We don't need you interfering.
There's a simple answer to this. Just think about who loves him the most. Clearly, I do, since I'm willing to look past the whole orientation thing.
I need him.
Well, you're gonna have to do better than that. I'd kill for him.
You'd kill for a chocolate bar.
No. Yes, kill for him. I'm the Slayer. Slayer means kill. Oh, I'll kill the principal.
Ooh, that's hard to top.
Yeah, well, I have skills. I can prove my love with magic.
Yeah, right. What are you gonna do? Use magic to turn him into a girl? Damn.
Okay, that was good, guys. That was really good. Though, what are you gonna do? Make him a woman? Damn. Like Emma Caulfield, Anthony, I think you said this, but I really wish she had been like part of the love spell earlier because she's so good with these like ridiculous lines.
This scene, if I had one thing to say, it's that this scene should have been 5-6 scenes earlier, just because it's so fun immediately, and I would have loved to have seen more. Even though the 4-way split screen is really hilarious, like I would have loved to have seen these plots in more detail because they're all so great. And I guess part of the joke is that they're so quickly disposed of, but like Emma Caulfield makes a meal of every line. Like she turns a phrase in ways I never expect. And like these beats right up until the end where she's like, my treat for ice cream is so good.
I just want to say that both myself and my mother are so happy she's getting that Marvel money now. Like, good for her.
Yes.
Yeah, people keep being like, I wish the pacing was faster on WandaVision. I'm like, I wish it was slower. I wish we were doing 10 episodes of this sitcom with Emma Caulfield in a starring role.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if it means there's no actual character development. I'm like, you know what? Their old school sitcoms are funny. This is good. Sorry that you don't understand TV and your brain is broken because you binge watched everything, but this is good actually.
Yeah, exactly. If we had done this for years with Emma Caulfield playing like the alpha woman on the block, I would have lived for it.
I mean, I think she's got one of the most iconic. I think I did it. Sometimes I do like little TV and movie impressions on my Twitter and Insta and stuff. And I did her scene from the Joyce's funeral thing. You know, there's just a body and she's not in it anymore, and it's so affecting and beautiful. I think Emma Caulfield is so hugely underrated. I think her performance in this is phenomenal. That sort of becoming human and understanding all of that. And she has all of that again this kind of season, but with much more funny kind of zingers. Why don't you just masturbate like everyone else? You know, all of those kind of lines that she has that are just, you know. I think she's fantastic. And I do feel like she could almost you could write anything for her and she can turn her hand to, you know, as much as I hate to like rave about another actor as much, but she can turn her hand to it all. You know, she can do the comedy beats and the emotions so well.
She has the range. She does.
That's the thing about like Whedonverse actors that you always say they can like do anything, which is why it's always so weird when some of them don't like hit as much post these shows. It's like they can do it all. What's wrong with you people?
Well, there's a universe where she got to play 6 on Battlestar Galactica, and I would love to have been in that universe, even though I love Trisha Helfer.
I love Trisha.
It'd be a different show. Like, it really would change the whole texture of that show.
It'd be fascinating. I would love to see it. It'd be so fascinating. But I do love Trisha, and my friends got me a Trisha cameo for my birthday last year, and it was very good.
Oh, she's
Nice.
amazing in it. And like it literally, like, I mean, it may not even be, it might not even have been as good a show, but it would have been a fascinating, because she plays that kind of robotic, it's what they're using her for on WandaVision, right? Like that kind of Stepford wife thing that Anya
Yeah.
does too.
Yeah, once more with feeling, she's
Yeah.
like sort of encapsulating.
She has
Yeah,
a
she's like
very
born in the wrong
old
era.
vibe
And then
that they don't use a lot, but when they do, it's like, well, why aren't you doing this all the time?
So then we cut. Is it right? Yeah, right after this, we have like the 70s music, and we cut to the 4 screen, which I love as like a visual.
I love that you say 70s music and not heist music, which is what it actually is.
Fair.
I thought it was like a Charlie's Angel, and
Yeah, it's
then
like
my other
Oh.
is it Ocean's 11?
It's like
Is it
Ocean's
both?
meets Charlie's Angels is what they're doing, or like a hustle leverage situation.
And it is hilarious when Buffy just takes out a rocket launcher. I mean, like, there's just like the level to which I love that kind of slapsticky element of it. I just, you've sort of got Willow doing a spout, that's standard.
Right.
Anya's putting on a balaclava, but then just Buffy just appearing with a rocket launcher. I thought, Buffy could just snap his neck, but
Right.
she's just come with a rocket launcher.
Going for the drama.
Because obviously they're not going to tip their hand that Robin Wood could fight back if she tried to snap his neck, But a rocket launcher, he can't fight a fucking rocket launcher.
Yeah, true. Of course, he's the son of a Slayer, isn't he? I forget.
They never returned the rocket launcher to the military after they stole it.
Yes.
I would notice, really.
I love the idea that it just sat in Buffy's fucking basement for however many years. Also, I'm like, why did she use it against Lori? It probably wouldn't have stopped her, but it probably would have been useful to repel her a little bit, right?
It could have been a Death Becomes Her riff if they rocket launched her and there's just a big hole in her gut.
That would be great.
But yeah, I love even Emma Caulfield's faces when she's walking up before she pulls the mask down are so good. And this is, I saw in Buffy Wiki, I meant to take a note of it, but I think they say in the context of the show, it's the 4th time we've ever seen Buffy drive, because she's driving fast and chaotically. Every other time it was the joke was that she's a bad driver because she doesn't have her license. So I don't know if that was continuing it or just whatever, but I love the panic of I gotta get this rocket launcher out. I gotta kill the principal because I gotta impress this guy. And him sitting at his desk while her and Spike wrestle behind the window is such a good visual gag.
Listening to smooth jazz. God, why make this beautiful man so basic?
Oh my god. Also, it feels very kind of, it's just good old school slapstick, isn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like it could be Laurel and Hardy, it's the chasing out in the kind of chasing back in the back of the shot as well. So there's the rugby tackle, then there's the chase, and then there's or what you guys would call football tackle probably. And it's beautiful. I love it so much. And then of course poor Dawn. The only saving grace is that when she's on those train tracks, that disgusting red jacket is getting all dusty, so she probably has to bin it after.
Yeah. Again,
also,
big bummer of the Dawn plot here.
But it's real sad. It is a kind of and then that becomes just when you think this is just a funny, silly episode, then it's just tackling something huge again, isn't it? Because we're getting into, suicide, and suicide is the scary thing in here. We've got no villain. It's love
Right.
is and feelings of inadequacy, and that's just I really feel for Dawn in that moment, and I still hate the jacket.
Yeah, it's I mean, especially in we still teach kids. I have taught kids Romeo and Juliet, right? We still give them these narratives about oh, love is the biggest thing, and Buffy gives those narratives, and to have Buffy say no guy is worth your life, not ever, that's a big deal, right? To me, at least, as as much as this is the goofiest, zaniest episode, it's kind of cool that as it was winding down, this show took a minute to be let's take the temperature of these ideas for a second.
Yeah, and you know what? I like that. I mean, this is why Buffy is our hero, right? It's our hero is still under this love spell, just almost, rocket launcher to the fucking principal, but still is pausing to be why are you doing this? like a dude isn't worth your life and saving her sister. And I like that kind of is like what takes her out of the love spell, because even when she's like, oh, that boy is so hot, and then immediately is like, oh, I think I'm under this spell here. Like, like it's such a good realization. But also we didn't discuss, Dawn has the really good line of, I can't compete with you. You're older and hotter and have sex that's rough and kill people. I think it's like such a good line, and her delivery of like all of it at once is really good. Kind of then just get our resolution, right? We kind of like wrap it up pretty quick after Buffy saves her. We get Xander and Spike. They're just like, all right, we got to do this. Because again, Spike doesn't say anything. Xander just says like, you know what we need to do. And Spike just like nods. And they just run and attack RJ and pull off his jacket and then throw it in the fire, which I think, again, it's like you said, Anthony, it's like taking the temperature of what they're doing. And then it's just like, all right, well, let's wrap up that plot because it's not as important
It
anymore.
literally does not matter. Also, I love the complete lack of payoff that Anya robbed a bank. Like that, and just like turns off the radio as they're talking about. What does she claim she did? I can't remember now.
So she wrote him a really epic love poem. And she's like rambling her way through trying to say what the poem was.
Right. And like once again, like Anya's money issues now have the biggest like there was always a question of like where does her income come from, and now it's like she's just loaded for the rest of the show.
Yeah. Robbed a bunch of banks, so she's good. I also like the idea of Anya being really good at robbing banks.
That makes sense. I think that
it does. Yeah. Yeah, LaToya, Tiff, what do you guys think of this ending where Anya's, she's like, ice cream, my treat, and turns off, and it ends on that beat?
I'm much better with her not having, repercussions for her actions, and Dawn pushing a boy down the stairs. And then being like, did you do it? No. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
I mean, one could make the argument that maybe later on they were like, they did tell the principals her, and was just like, it was a spell, it's the Hellmouth, and then he was like, all right, well, whatever.
Why did she rob a bank though? What was the plan after she robbed the bank?
I love it because she like is leaving the house and she's like, I know what will work, and that's what she's using.
It's like an ADR line where they're like, what can I give him? And she seems to have decided he would like some money.
Money is the most important thing to her, so she thinks that money is the most important thing to everyone,
Yeah, I suppose that makes bit more sense. This is why she's still dressed as Shane from the L Word, right?
Right.
So,
has she had her hair cut since last episode?
She has her hair cut, and her hair's. She seems to go darker when she's back into darker hair when she's back into Vengeance Demon mode. But then I think she goes blonde again, or like a reddish sort of mid, like kind of strawberry blonde later on.
Man, she really put her hair through it on this show.
I worry about Emma Caulfield's like hair health all the time. It was fun to watch it change every week, but I'm like, this isn't good for you, girl.
Yeah.
I guess it's a good character beat for someone who doesn't know who she is, that she's like compulsively changing her hair. But damn, yeah, that's like a lot to put yourself through.
But also the clothing does feel very out of step. And maybe it is about her trying to find her. They're not very Anya outfits, are they? But she's going through this, probably, she's going through guilt and pain, and
they're her version of the dungarees of sadness.
Yes, it's true. Yes. She'd be wearing these cute little handkerchief tops and like silky skirts and bias cut dresses, or she's doing that kind of Stepford wife look that you've talked about before. She's normally doing something. It's like a look, and these feel very much like there is no look. It's I've found some things and I put them on.
It's like a Natalie Imbruglia torn video moment. Yeah.
That is the vibe, actually. That's what's happening here.
Nothing's right. She's torn. She's all over the
Well, that leads us to the end of the episode. And joining us now is Buffy Season 7 costume designer Matt Van Dyne to give us a fashion rundown on him. Hi, Matt.
Hey, everybody.
So glad to have you back, as always.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So tell us what you remember from him.
Well, I did find my script. I had my script.
Right.
And of course, my memory is as good as maybe I had hoped, because when I was looking back at my script for the opening scene at the football field,
Mhm.
I remembered, I thought, oh, this is the episode. And couple of things really stood out for me in that episode, or in that scene from that episode.
Okay.
Was it was a big undertaking to order a lot of the football gear for the football players, and they were scrimmaging on the field and whatnot.
Mhm.
And we would shoot out in Northridge. I think it was Northridge, the college at Northridge, I believe. And they were very protective of the turf on their football field, and they said nobody can wear spiked cleats on the field. Well, I was very specific about that when I ordered from, I think the company we used was called Sports Robe, and I said we can't have anything with spikes on them. Well, sure enough, when everything was delivered, they
Oh, no.
sent spikes at the last minute.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, what in the world? So in a mad rush, I had to get Sports Robe on the phone, and we finally got the right shoes out there for the ball players, so they wouldn't basically destroy
Right.
the turf on the field. And then another thing that came up for me in that scene was at the end of the scene where Buffy and Dawn are speaking.
Mm.
Buffy, Sarah, picks up her purse and leaves the scene. Well, for some reason, and it wasn't anything I had any involvement in at that point, the purse was missing. The purse wasn't, it seems, sent to the location. Now, the location was many miles away from where I was in Santa Monica. Well, I get a phone call from Sarah.
Oh, geez.
Yes, yes. And I'm in my office, and basically everybody else was on location. And Sarah was none too happy. And I didn't blame her at all, because I thought, well, it was supposed to be there. And I certainly apologized to her for it, and promised her that nothing like that would happen again. And it never did after that. And I was able to send a runner and rush that purse out there in time for her
Okay.
to have it for the end of that scene. And,
That's wild, Matt.
and that was very important, very important. And what else I remember, looking at the clothing, of course, that was a big Dawn episode.
Yeah.
And that outfit that stood out in my mind was that, I would call it the Poochie printed top that she wore, which was a favorite of Michelle's, because Michelle loved the designer Marc Jacobs. So anything from Marc Jacobs was a winner. So we put her in that Marc Jacobs top, and that came from a lot of her clothing for that episode. A lot of the clothing for that episode came from Saks Fifth Avenue. And also, Sarah wears a couple of cream-colored tops in there. I was trying to keep them straight, like which was which. And one was a Catherine Maladrino top, and the other one was Marc Jacobs, the prairie-style top that tied at the waist. That was a Marc Jacobs top, which actually wasn't that expensive ultimately. And there were lots of purchases for that episode, because we hadn't really spent that much money on the previous episode, because we used the closet for that episode. But in this episode, we did a lot of purchasing, a lot of boots, a lot of footwear. It seems, we were probably, filling in, because we had more of a budget to move the money around. And I look back at the records for these shows, and it's amazing to me how many things I would have to sign off on as far as tracking the money. And I had to, account for everything that went everywhere. So, and it had to be in order for the accounting people at Fox, because they would track everything, and you would have to describe all your purchases. And I mean, looking back, when I look at the jewelry on the show, oh my goodness. Well, Fox ended up with quite a nice stock of jewelry because we purchased a lot of jewelry for that episode, and we had this Letterman's jackets made for that episode. I had those made. That's in my notes. And then all of the letters, the big S's for the jackets, those were made by a company called Seychelles, which they would embroider, custom whatever we would need for that. So, but there's a lot of preparation involved when you have like a football team or something like that.
I hadn't even thought about that.
It's all custom, even down to, I was looking at the purchases for the coaches on the field where we bought their polo shirts, and, maybe I'd have to double look at it. But I think sometimes, we'd, spruce them up a little bit, add something here or there to it. But those were bought at Nordstrom, the colors, you would have to match colors and all of that. And a lot of RJ's wardrobe, I looked up his wardrobe, a lot of Lucky and Diesel. And those came from, I believe those were Nordstrom as well. And then a lot of the rest of his wardrobe came from American Eagle. At the time, very, very
right,
trendy for the time.
Yeah.
And, but when you're planning, I mean, I just look at my notes and I could just see all over the scribbles, like must buy this, must buy that, scrimmage jerseys. He pours water. You've got to have 2 jackets. It's like multiples. And when Dawn would fall or trip, it would be a stunt double. And then I actually was looking, we used a photo double in that episode for some scenes. Now, I'm not sure what the reason was, if it was just, her availability maybe. And, she
what's that mean, photo double?
A photo double was just somebody walking and you're believing that is who it is, and they're photographing her from behind or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she's not doing a stunt or anything. She would just be like walking through the school or, walking down off the bleachers or whatever.
Okay.
Just something, mundane like that. But
is it kind of like, if you have to buy all those like jerseys and colors and stuff, is that kind of like, well, we know we can use this later, so they don't mind buying it all? Or?
Yeah, somewhat. Yes. Of course, we burned one in that episode.
True.
But yeah, they know. I was in my records, I was looking, it says episode 99. And I thought, episode 99, what does that mean? And then it hit me. Well, that is like a budget we were given at the beginning of the season to pull from in case we had overages on other episodes. So we could always go back to that budget of that episode and charge things to that episode, to that make-believe episode, basically. Yeah. But yeah, so that was what episode 99 was. So we would have that as kind of like a buffer for us. We would use that to fill other needs on other shows. Now, I did notice like episode 5 spills over into 6, some of it. So maybe what we didn't spend on episode 5, we just spent on episode 6. Yeah. So that episode 6, which is him, it was a lot. There were a lot of purchases for that episode. Yeah.
They do wear a lot of different, like they fully all wear different, like at least 2 or 3 different outfits. Yeah.
Well, and that's when Xander's walking and he's got the suede Banana Republic jacket on, and he's with Buffy, Sarah. It ends up with blood on it, so you have to have another. But fortunately, with that, we only had to have 2 because he didn't really have to have a stunt double. So there's so much to consider. I mean, if you would look at my records, you would be like, oh my goodness. I mean, it's just like it is like buying for, I don't know, like a store, basically. Yeah. You're just, because it's all. In our season, we really didn't go back to other seasons that much. So, and pull from there, we had a different kind of look. So I noticed a lot of the boots and the footwear, some beautiful boots for Willow. They were like I think those came from Neiman Marcus, and they were laced up the back. They were knee-high boots, really beautiful boots. And then just Sarah, just other boots and heels, the right look. It makes the actress, you don't always see all of that on screen, but it makes the actress, I think, feel much more confident.
Well, it's kind of like anytime, like, if we're not on screen, but if we're wearing a nice outfit, we still feel better,
Yeah, perfectly said. Thank you, Ian. Yeah, you validated my point.
So there are a lot of outfits in this episode, Matt. Looking back, what's your, like, now favorite?
In that episode, now my favorite. Well, I probably have to say, of all things, there's just something, because it resonated with me, that I used later, it's not really an outfit, it's a piece that Sarah wore, which is that cream turtleneck bulky sweater that I used later under the denim jacket.
Is it the same one? It's
yes,
the same one?
I swear. I would think that it is, because as I looked it up, I believe it's a Michael Kors, and it was a fairly expensive sweater at the time. It was around $1,000. So
oh shit.
So it was exactly. So but just as a piece, I think like, okay, well, that was something that I could really use later that came in handy. So that resonated with me, and I love Sarah's look. As far I know what I should mention before I forget. Yes. When Dawn is in the bronze, the dance club, and she's wearing the slutty, okay, well, we have it described in our notes as Dawn's slutty look, and it came from Forever 21, and it was all of $15. Dawn's slutty look. Yeah. So that might be a favorite, actually, because it stood out so much. For $15, it got a lot of play.
Yeah. I love that.
But as far as like Sarah, I mean, I love Sarah's look. Like I said, those cream prairie looking cowgirl. They call them those tops, frilly kind of. I love that. Yeah, I love those.
I mean, she looks good in like a flowy. She looks good in everything. So
yeah, she does. She does. She really does. But she had a lot of changes in that episode. Yeah.
I think like Buffy has maybe 4, maybe 5,
maybe something like that. Quite a few. Yeah, quite a few. But yeah, that the Michael Kors sweater just stood out to me, because I went, oh, I didn't remember that. I went back and pulled it, to use again. Totally changed everything. For the second time, it didn't look exactly like it did the first time. So
no, and it works. It works for both outfits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's good to know. Well, Matt, thank you for doing this. Thank you for joining us as always. I'll see you next time, Matt.
Thank you. See you soon.
And now we're going to rate our favorite outfits. Tiff, what was your favorite outfit from the episode?
I think the governess. Like I wasn't a Catholic schoolgirl look, but I kind of liked Willow had a sparkly number going on later on as well, but mainly I think Buffy's kind of Victoriana, kind of cute white top and long kind of skirt, I think for me was my favorite outfit.
LaToya?
Yeah, I guess. See, I am torn between Anya's Natalie Imbruglia look, and as much as I cracked on it for not being appropriate for school, like Buffy's first outfit, like when they're on the bleachers, her and Dawn. It's a tie, I gotta say.
All right, Anthony.
I feel like I agree. Like all those looks are good. I think I would have answered the governess look, but the more I think about it, like the jacket is a really nice piece of like costuming. Like it really is if you gave me that Sunnydale jacket, I would wear it every day. So I feel like that the jacket might be my pick, actually.
All right, fair. I think so. She wears this again later on, but Buffy wears the like white chunky turtleneck sweater. I think she looks good in a chunky sweater.
Oh, that's a
I
good one
like
too.
white.
Yeah.
If you have a neck like
Oh,
that,
yes.
like, I'm so jealous of people who have necks. Like, because you get to wear these gorgeous pieces. Like, I could never wear a Victorian collar.
You could. You gotta try,
What about-
Anthony. I don't think you're trying hard enough.
Maybe I look like a turtle, like halfway a frightened turtle.
Aw.
I think the Willow spell look is actually really pretty. It also has my favorite line, which we didn't even talk about, where she goes, Hecate hates that when the spell gets interrupted.
You know what? She does. This is factual.
Favorite scene, LaToya?
Favorite scene. Well, I really do enjoy this episode. This weird little episode. So, what is my favorite scene? It might be like the split screen situation as they all go off to do their things to make RJ love them with that 70s music, as you call it. Yeah.
Anthony?
Yeah, it's the split screen or it's the bazooka. Those are the scenes I think of every time I think of this episode.
Tiff?
I think I would probably go for the Anya and Willow exchange.
Okay.
That little funny
Okay.
exchange, just for the comedy value. Like visually, maybe not as exciting as some of the other scenes, but I really like that scene.
So yeah, for me, my favorite scene is them all arguing over RJ, and like you said, when Anya says AJ is my dearest friend, and I love that. But
Darling.
a close second, yeah, like a close second is the rocket launcher bit because I just think it's so fucking good. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I think of when I think of this episode is like that. And grade, Anthony.
That's tough because it's like, obviously it's not like, I would never in a million years, if someone was like top 10 episodes of Buffy, be like, oh yeah, him. But it does exactly what it wants to do. Like I can't think, the only critique I would make is like, I wish it got weirder faster, but otherwise it accomplishes what it wants to do. So I feel like it's an A for me.
All right, LaToya.
Yeah, I was thinking of that way. It's not an all timer. I think I'd give it a B plus probably. It's really solid, and it's like kind of a breath of fresh, really, especially in the later seasons. And it's just like it has so many callbacks, and I think it is a good like mishmash of like contemporary Buffy and like early season Buffy.
Tiff.
I would like to mirror it, I guess, for the kind of physical element of comedy and slapstick with one of the best episodes, which is Hush. I think they share a similar kind of the slapsticky, where Buffy's kind of, drawing Mr. Pointy and she's,
Right,
like
yeah.
she's masturbating and like they've got it's got a sensibility that is kind of like, the stakes are high, but there's lots of large comedic moments in it. So for me, yeah, I would say it's not the one I go to first of all when I go, what's my favorite ever Buffy episode? So I would say I would agree with LaToya. I feel it's about a B. To give it less than that would feel unfair. So I feel like maybe a B plus.
So I'm gonna have to agree with Anthony. Has changed the way I like grade stuff. So he's like, does it achieve what it meant to achieve? So that's why I always think of when I'm grading. And like I do think this episode does achieve it. And like LaToya, like you said, it's a good mishmash of like callbacks, but like still keeping it. It's not like doesn't feel like too much. It's not like weighed down by the callbacks. So I think I was on the like border of B plus A, but I think I go with A. But again, I think there's a lot of Buffy episodes that like are really good, but still aren't in my top 10. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where I would rank this episode, but it still is really good. But I think there's a lot of Buffy episodes that I've given A's to. You know what I mean?
I think Tiff's point is really, really amazing. Like, it really does have a visual style that is like, it doesn't look like a Buffy episode, right?
Like the split screen is so like Buffy doesn't do that at all, and they do that in this episode.
It also doesn't do it doesn't flash back to previous episodes, right? Like, I can't think of another Buffy episode where we literally see a scene from an episode like that.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Or like a shot that like the shot of the principal where stuff is happening in the background. That's just not a thing it does. Like, if you only saw this episode of Buffy, you would have a very different idea of what the show was like, even just at a visual level. And I love that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for listening. If you liked Slayerfest 98, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can find us on social media at SlayerFestX98. You can subscribe to our Patreon, which really helps keep the podcast going and gives you access to mini episodes, our private Facebook group, and more. If you want to follow me on social, I am at Ian X Carlos. Tiff, where can everyone find you?
I'm on Twitter at Tiff Stevenson. And also I've just kind of got a TikTok, which I'm enjoying. I was like, I'm not going to be into this. And I really love it. I love it.
I'm
All right.
obsessed with TikTok right now. It's so much better than Twitter.
It feels much more wholesome in that the level of trolling or general disagreement or argument. I mean, sure, people do that in the comments and stuff, but it actually feels like a place where the content reigns supreme over. I've got a lot more followers on Twitter, but on TikTok, I think I came on, I only had a couple of hundred, and I put a video out, and just more people saw it. I think if stuff is good on there, it kind of just flies a bit more, and also it's a bit more joyous.
Yeah. I've only recently started getting into falling down TikTok holes, and a thing I realized is I was like, you know what? I appreciate people that are bad at the dances and still just put it up there because they're having fun. I can appreciate, and that's not supposed to be a slight. It's they tried their best and they literally did, and they're having fun. I appreciate that, shit like that. That wouldn't really work on Twitter. I feel like if someone was trying their best but not quite getting there, that would not fly on Twitter. LaToya, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter at LaFergs, and from there you can find my writing because I will plug my shit. You can also find me also on Twitter and other places. I don't handle at both Amp Diaries Pod, which is the Empire Diaries, my Vampire Diaries spoiler-free rewatch podcast, and Angel on Topcast, which is my Angel spoiler-free rewatch podcast. I'm all about sad and slightly horny vampire rewatches right now. And I'm sure I have fun things happening that I can't talk about, both just in my general screenwriting career and my Ronda Rousey career, but cool things are happening. So there you go.
She does it all.
I do it all. I'm so fucking tired.
And Anthony, where can everyone find you?
You can find me not on TikTok, but you can find me on most other things at Mia Koopa, MEAKOOPA.
I just followed everyone on Twitter just now.
Oh, good.
Oh, I need to do that too.
We'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.